Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. So this past weekend, the weekend of the third, had the Nibiru, the Primal Being Extreme Duel event. This is a event by which the Nibiru, the Primal Being, is added to the starting hand. Um, you would think this would make people be a lot smarter about their special summons and plays like I was, and then you just had people playing anti-spell fragrance, skill drain, trap negate, set 5 pass. We did 6 matches, 3 wins, 3 losses, and I played the deck known as Sin. Sin being basically a pile deck filled with a bunch of engines that work moderately well together. As well, you can find a deck profile for that on my YouTube channel. So let's get into the matches a little bit, shall we? Play, replay. Let's get started. So the game opens, obviously, with Nibiru being added to both of our openers. Not bad. So we have discard fodder and Nib, is to be expected. I lead with a Water Enchantress of the Temple, get a Rite of Aramesir. Use Rite of Aramesir, even though I had an extra one in hand. Deck thinning is good to get an Adventure token and a Faithful Adventure on field, using Faithful Adventure's ability to get a Wandering Griffin Rider, pitching the Dasher for cost, locking myself out of DB for the turn. I end on a board negate, a Maxi in hand, and a Nib. Not terrible. Going against Sword Soul, obviously I shotgun the Maxi the moment I see the Mio. She stops in her tracks. I draw an Ash Blossom, not really able to do much. Decide that the back row is more of a threat than the Mio, and I was right because they have Reject Reborn, which would have allowed them to just get the material they needed immediately. Gross. Goes to main phase 2 because I activate Wandering Griffwar's in hand effect again, starting with another negate on board. They set 2 cards, pass, come back to me, and I open an Alistair, and I'm like, ooh, we cook it with gas. I get an Invocation to hand, then go into Almirage, decide to probably hit some back row for safety, go into Secure Gardener, use Invocation with Secure Gardener in the Alistair, the Invoker, and Grave to go into an Invoke Mechaba, and beam for some damage after adding the Alistair, the Invoker, back to hand with the effective Invocation. Attacking for 20, 40, 25. We're now, again, cooking with gas. They've got 1 card face down on board. They shotgun the Raigeki after setting thing. I negate it. Thank God it works. They don't have anything else in hand, and scoop. That was my first win. Moving on to turn 2, we get the Nibiru in both of our hands. This time, I am going second. I open Maxi, Ash Blossom, Rev Synchron, a Dia Bellstar, and a Draco back. They are on Snake Eyes, which I can tell from by the use of Bonfire. That's actually in the game now? Jesus Christ, I should add it to my deck. But I decided to let it go because I wanted to save that Ash Blossom. They go for the popular. I now get to add a thing to hand. I negate their thing with Ash Blossom Joy Spring, and they decide to use that as a reason to hit Droll and lock Bird. Understandable. But the magical meltdown that I got off of that Maxi will be indubitably important. They summon a Dia Bellstar. They set the wanted for some reason, but you know, 'tis what it is. And I am now not able to get anything off of Maxi, which is very sad. At this point, they're just going to start popping off with the Snake Eyes. Link into a Heat of the Fire Charmer. Use the Flame Burst's effect to get 2 more populars. It's at this point I decide to use the Nib, and even though they're able to set the Flame Burst to their back row, I stop their turn in their tracks. And they scoop and draw phase, thankfully, because thankfully I had some heat and I was able to go off. Now this was my first. Now onto my first loss of the event. It was loss after loss after loss, very emotionally difficult, especially since this was when I stopped dealing with people who just pulled up with their meta deck and started playing against people who actually planned for this shit just a little bit. I opened a Water Enchantress, a Ref Synchron, a Nib, a Faithful Adventure of Draco back, and a DFL Star card that's going to be nothing. I activate Rite of Aramesir, activate its effect, get the token, and the Faithful Adventure on the field. Faithful Adventure's effect adds a Griffin Rider hand, and I pitch the Draco back. The Draco back's effect is a good pitch here because it can attach itself when sent from grave. Same thing as the very first match in this duel, but it's going to do a lot less for me here. This is where they do a Drake connection. I'm like, I'll let that slide. They then do Malefics. And I'm like, dear God, I'm going against Malefics. This is going to be easy. Oh, how contraire, how wrong I was. They go through their Malefic shenanigans, able to get a Malefic World on the field. They get a Malefic Paradox Gear, get a Parallel Gear, and now they're able to just make their Baronne de Fleur. Yeah, it can make Baronne relatively easily. There goes my adventure token. This is where I decided to nib. Because it is only negate, they are able to hit me for quite a bit with the Baronne de Fleur. I mean, not the Baronne de Fleur, the Malefic Cyber End Dragon. I open nothing really great. I decided to pitch the Sinful Spoils to get a Griffin Rider on board, and this is where I decided to go into my own Baronne de Fleur. I use Synchron's effect just to sort of get things going, and unfortunately I'm stupid because I didn't count. I special summoned too much. Now here's where, ladies and gentlemen, you have to remember to read cards. Reading cards is important. Many people when you go don't do it. I did not read the effect of Revolution Synchron, and I made a genuine mistake by doing that. Because watch, I use tuning, get a Rev Synchron, presume, okay, let me water change to the Temple, I'll go into a AFD, and then I'll just go into this Clearwing Synchro. Great. Go into the AFD, cannot activate the effect of Revolution Synchron because if you control a level 7 or higher Synchro monster while this card's on your graveyard, you can send the top card of your deck to the graveyard, and if you do special summon this card, it becomes level 1. You can only use this effect once per duel. I did it for shits and giggles with the Baronne to go into Verte. Your boy is cooked this turn, this go around. That was the decision that led to my downfall in here. Here they're going to go get the parallel gear. Use the Stardust to go into the. Doesn't matter what this does. It's a 4K Bingus, and they kill me with Nib. Quite apt for the Nibiru Tryout Duels Extreme Duel Challenge. This next one is a little more self-explanatory. This one was quite literally just somebody who built a deck for this format. They shotgun Pot of Prosperity. It's fine. It's not like I have any thing it did. And I'm looking at the thing. Oh no, they've got a lot of shit. They top decked a lot of shit. And they ended up picking Skill Drain, which is probably the worst thing I could have gotten for this deck. They set 4 paths, and I'm like, I'm in danger. And I top deck Fusion Destiny. I activate Chicken Game. And they activate Anti-Spell Fragrance. And Skill Drain. Activate Water and change to the Temple. Get a Rite of Erebusir to hand. Use Chicken Game's effect. Draw into a Dia Bellstar. I'm like, oh my god, I'm saved. Summon the Dia Bellstar, set my Fusion Destiny, the Snake Eyes card, and the Rite of Erebusir so I can use the next turn. And they have, what the fuck is this? Basically, thing to prevent them from taking and dying. Use Bad Luck Blast to basically get my points down even more. And they set the card and send it back to me. I draw a card. Great. Oh, Alistair the Invoker. That's nice. I can use that. I activate Rite of Erebusir. Get out of Faithful Adventure. Ring of Destruction, really? You dickhead. This is where I use Central Spoils of Subversion. Now they have an open field. And this is where I fucked up. I got greedy. I should have played a little more defensively because normally I do when it comes to back row. But I didn't because, I got greedy. And I got hit with a Dimension Wall, which makes me take the battle damage instead of my opponent. And this kills me this turn. I died to the Dimension Wall in the year of our Lord 2024. Needless to say, after that last duel, ya boy was a little heated. Not very happy. Especially with a deck like this, with a opening hand like this, that only has about 2 engines and no hand draws aside from it. But I thought it could make it work. And I got Shotgun Dimension Sifter. I'm like, alright, I'm officially fed the fuck up. And I don't want to play anymore. but I want this pack and I want to be done because I want to make this content. And I realized, oh, they're playing the Shark Boy and Lava Girl archetype. Not really, it's just World of Dreams. And they just get everything that they need. I do not know how any of these cards work. I have never seen them on ladder, and I refuse to learn them because they're irrelevant. And as you can tell, even thinking back to this, I was salty back then. And they normal summon Thunder King Ryo. And I'm like, my only fucking option here is motherfucking Fusion Destiny, and they don't even have the dignity to use Thunder King Ryo to make the Ash Blossom me. It's at this point, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to sit through another 2 turns of this shit for you to dome me for game. Fuck it, we moving on to the next one, which is exactly what we're doing right now. And this was the final match where I was able to, at the very least, play through my opponent's unfair, unfun bullshit. Thankfully, I also opened a fairly decent hand with granted. A DPE chicken game pass is not terrible, and I will not say it is. I open with a chicken game to get my draw 1 because why the fuck wouldn't I? Leads me into a magical meltdown per brilliant top deck. This lets me get the Invoker, Breath Synchron already in hand. I can then go into the AFD, which is lovely. Ancient Fairy Dragon is summoned to the field in attack mode because it's not going to be here that long. Here for good time, not long time. Pops that, I get some health back. Didn't have any other spells to go for, but I used the Graveyard Effective Breath Synchron to go into Crystal Wing. I am now shielded from Nib, which I use as my go-ahead to go use Fusion Destiny, which I shouldn't have done. I should have gone into Mecha Buff first to cover my ass a little bit more, but I didn't because I'm a dumbass, because I don't read cards and I don't think, so it is what it is. So I end on a Crystal Wing, a DPE, and, an Ash and Maxi in hand. Not a bad place to be. I maxi during standby because I remember my moderator, Chara, or Desert Dust 453 on YouTube telling me, make sure you use it in standby so they can't activate a response. They basically pop my Clear Wing. I get my DP back during my standby phase. And now I'm down to 4. I activate Invocation to summon a Invoked Mecha by using my opponent's Nib. Now that I know they don't have another Nib in hand, I'm free to pop off. But I can only pop off so much. So I tuck the Invocation back in hand to get my Alistair back to hand. Normal summon it, get my Invocation out of the deck, use the Denier so I have a little bit of extra shit on board, and then I use Invocation plus the AFD in Graveyard to go into another Invoked Mechaba. And praying, is this enough for lethal? It's probably not, but we can try. I attack with 1 Mechaba, 2 Mechabas, and they decide to scoop before they see the end of this fight, which, unfortunate for you, the viewer, I understand. Now, the only thing that was, interesting for me in regards to this was the Blazing Arena thing. I don't really think I got anything worth a damn from it, but one of the cards I did get, which was funny, was Triangle Zero. I remember the episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds where you did a literal pile of cards and did the most audacious board wipe in the game with the least consistent deck, and I'm like, oh, the anime protagonist powers were out that day. Whew. That reminds me, somebody once said, I saw a video where somebody said that Yusei isn't one of the top Yu-Gi-Oh! Protagonists, and I'm like, bet you won't say that to his face. He got hands. But all jokes aside, I do kind of like the idea of the game of chicken that you get with this dual trial. But I'm not so audacious enough that I'm gonna go build a deck for it. I thought the Sin deck is generally a good catch-all place to be, but I like dual trials. I was kind of okay with this one. It sucks that it just kind of reduced to stun or bust, but what can you do? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, your time, and your viewership. If you want to support the show, please go to himedia.gg/tip to support the show. And see you guys next time. Have a good one.